So this week we are talking about the 5 levers in your supply chain. What are they? Why do you need to know about them? And why are they important? Coming right up. So over the last 25 years or so, I've spent my life fixing up supply chains for our consulting clients. If you don't know, my day job, other than doing YouTube videos, my day job is running a consulting business called Logistics Bureau. And interestingly enough, over those decades, you start to see patterns emerge. Patterns like things that often go wrong in supply chains, and on the flip side, things that are commonly available to improve, opportunities to improve. And that's really what I want to talk about today. And I'm going to talk about the 5 key levers for improving your supply chain. So let's get right into it. Now, you will find videos on this channel which go into each of these 5 in a lot more detail. So I really just want to not gloss over the surface, but introduce you to the 5. So here we go. First one is customer and stakeholder balance. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, quite simply, you have, in any supply chain, you've got customers who expect a certain level of service, maybe higher than you're providing already, who knows? And depending on the type of organization, you've got stakeholders, shareholders. If it's a commercial organization, you're trying to make a profit, so you want to keep the cost of the supply chain down, and yet you've got your customers perhaps wanting higher and higher levels of service, which could be pushing your costs up. So it's a question of balancing, and it's a question of understanding what can we afford to give our customers. Firstly, really understand what your customers value, what they really need, and then work out what you can afford to give them. How do you do that? Through cost to serve, of course. Talk about that a lot on this channel. Once you've worked out that balance, you can then start to draw up a little bit of a strategy for your supply chain. So what's number 2? Supply chain strategy. It amazes me still the number of organizations that I talk to who still don't have a supply chain strategy. It's not hard to do. You can do a one-pager. You'll find videos on the channel on exactly how to do that. But when we understand the customer expectation and the stakeholder expectation, we can start to develop our supply chain strategy. And it's very simple. You start from the top down. You want to have, I often refer to these as strategic imperatives or goals or objectives, 3 or 4 really clear objectives for your supply chain, clearly articulated so they can be understood by everybody. Once you've got those, then you can look at what I refer to as the key enablers. What are the things that you're going to have to do to achieve those supply chain objectives? And then finally, below all of that, you can develop some KPIs to measure how you are actually achieving those objectives, how you're ranking, what's your performance like, and so on. So number 2, supply chain strategy. Number 3, I'm going to call flow. And what do I mean by that? It's the flow of your product through your network, through your supply chain network, maybe coming in from suppliers, going out to customers, maybe going through intermediate points like distributors and retailers and so on. You really need to understand at a detailed level how your products move through that network and understand that your customer demand drives the shape of that network. Again, you'll find videos on this on the channel. If I remember, I'll put all the links down below. But your customer service level drives the shape of that network. Why? Imagine you have a 1-hour service level for all of your customers. What does that mean? In simple terms, it means you've got to be holding all your inventory within 1 hour of your customers. What if you had a 2-day service level? Different altogether, isn't it? You can hold that inventory 2 days back from your customers. So it shapes a completely different distribution network. So you see how we're logically looking at the customer demand, our strategy, and then we can look at how we're flowing product through our network. So balance that network in terms of service and cost, and don't just copy other businesses, because every business, every organization has a slightly different network need. Number 4, understand the key cost drivers. In every supply chain that I've looked at over the last 25, 30 years, there are standout items, activities within the supply chain that really drive a lot of cost. It could be, we call them ugly products, but really oddly shaped, fragile products which are expensive to move. It could be, lots of small orders from customers, with home deliveries. It could be poor resupply of certain products. So if you look at your customers and your products, you can very quickly start to understand what are the key cost drivers for those types of customers, for those sorts of products that increase the cost of getting those to the customer. So it's really important that you understand that, and that you differentiate your service offer to your customers based on that. Maybe you've got products where you can do a next day delivery, but other products, because of the nature of the product and the service around it, where you can't do that. It has to be a 3-day delivery. So your different products and different customers may demand different service levels. Number 5, and we had to have this one in there, performance measurement. It's no good understanding your supply chain, inside out, and having the right strategy and understanding the flows and so on if you're not going to measure its performance. What generally happens with supply chain KPIs, I find, is that people have way too many. I always like to suggest having 3 or 4 for each level of management in the organization. So, for example, if the warehouse manager has a set of KPIs, they're going to be very much around warehouse productivity and costs and order sizes and things like that. Right at the sort of top level of management, it's going to be things like supply chain cost as a percentage of sales, maybe inventory availability, those sort of higher level measures. So don't go overboard on KPIs. Make sure that they match your strategy. Remember, we had our objectives for the strategy. We've got to have KPIs that neatly dovetail into that. And also, I would urge you to go and I'll try to remember to put the link down there, but go and have a look at the video about the perfect order. The probability of a perfect order is probably one of the best KPIs out. So there we go, quick gallop through the 5 key levers in supply chain. Number 1, make sure that you get that customer and stakeholder requirement in balance. Number 2, put together that simple supply chain strategy if you don't have one. 3, understand how your product is flowing through your supply chain. 4, understand the key drivers of cost in your supply chain. And number 5, put the right KPIs in place. So there you go. 5 things, if you focus on those, will improve your supply chain performance. So thanks for watching. And as always, if you have any questions, do ask down below. If you're new to the channel, think about subscribing. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.